Good evening. My name is Connor, and I had the honor and privilege of being Bruce's hospice chaplain. I was invited to be here today by Jeanie to open our time with a blessing of gratitude. As we begin, I invite you to be fully present in this space. Please feel free to close your eyes if that helps you feel connected, or be in this space in whatever way feels most comfortable to you. I invite you to envision Bruce now in one of your fondest memories of him. Picturing him smiling while doing something that brought him joy. Maybe he's petting one of his many beloved pets, or selling shoes, or doing any of his other favorite activities. I hope that for each of us, we may be present as we celebrate Bruce's life and legacy. I hope that all the creatures of this world may be loved and cared for the way that Bruce cared for his pets and any animals or people in need. I pray that we may feel Bruce's presence here with us today as we celebrate and grieve together. I invite us to acknowledge the mixed emotions that many of us may be feeling now. As we share and speak about Bruce's life and legacy today, many will inevitably reflect upon our own mortality. And I pray that we find comfort in the presence of one another and our loved ones, and find the answers that we seek. I hope that alongside all the other emotions swirling about, that we may choose to be grateful, just as Bruce embodied so gracefully. I pray we may feel gratitude for the time that we had to spend with Bruce. I pray that we may feel grateful now for all the ways that we feel connected to Bruce in this moment, and hope that we may always embody the unabashed gratitude that Bruce held for everything in his life by leaving this world a better place than we found it. May it be so.
Okay. Is that a bad sign? I am going to be very proud of myself if I can get through this. But I want you to be, there's Bob Schwartz. I'm sorry. Look around at all these wonderful people. Thank you for being here to honor Bruce, who made a difference in our lives, most especially mine. First of all, I want to thank you that sent me lovely texts, that sent me emails, cards, and flowers, that helped me through this challenging time. Please know that it made a difference. Every one of them did. I've had two revelations in the past couple weeks while working on this service. And one of them just came to me last night when I woke up in the middle of the night. And I was thinking about all this sadness, all the grief, all the unhappiness, unfortunately, all the hatred in this world and in this country. And here we have today something so wonderful to celebrate that just goes to show you that there's so much goodness in the world. And Bruce just personified that. I wish I had time to name everybody that helped to put this occasion together, but I would go over my 10-minute time limit. To the Nordstrom staff who worked tirelessly to pull this celebration off in a very relatively short amount of time, and most especially to my dining room table angels, Amy, Catherine, and Karen, who got the invitations out in an unbelievable way. I just hope that someday I will be able to show my gratitude to my beloved, precious friends, buddies, and soulmates. I couldn't have gone through this time of such extreme loss without you. Your arms are around me even when you weren't next to me. I felt your presence. I wish I had time to call each one of you out in here and tell you how much I love you and how much you mean to me. But I won't do that. To my O'Rourke family, we've always been there for each other, always. And this time is no different. What a gift you are. To my come up for a glass of wine buddy, Anne, Bruce's sister. Thankfully, you were just one floor below because it was a short trip when I needed you the most. For the time you were able to spend with your brother and for helping me get through many tough evenings, I thank you. You have my love and my thanks forever. To Pete and Brandy, Eric and Julie, Molly and Stuart, and the most amazing, truly amazing grandchildren that you could ever imagine. I mean, you all should know them because they're so special. Your dad and grandpa loved you so much, and he was so proud of each one of you, as I am and always will be. You have been my gift of a lifetime. It's not that we don't have our challenges like every other family in the world, but to be able to watch this Nordstrom family grow, not just in inches and shoe sizes and titles, but watching them grow together has been such a gift. We always show up for each other in the good and in the hard times. We have such wonderful memories together with Bruce. And just to experience your kindness, your goodness, it's a privilege to be a part of this family. Your support has been so beautiful, and I know this is a huge loss for all of you. Lastly, to Bruce's caregivers. Where are they? Maybe, okay. To Bruce's caregivers, Richard 3, Nighttime Richard and Patrick, you have our deepest gratitude. And Mary Smith, wherever you are, I know you're here, your food and your goodness, I don't know what I would have done without you. Okay, if ever I had any doubt of God's goodness and help during difficult times, all I have to do is think of Richard 2. And I'm not finding him, but I hope he's here. Bruce called Richard his best friend, and I called him my salvation, my hero, my angel. The two of you laughed and sang and ate thousands of oysters, ice cream bars, Tate's cookies, peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches. Really, hundreds. And even Richard started eating peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches. You made me smile and laugh when all I wanted to do was cry. You were there to give me a hug when you saw the sorrow in my eyes. You have the tenderest and kindest of hearts, and you will be a part of our family forever. The second realization that I had that sort of startled me, that if I hadn't taken the job at United Way of King County some 40 years ago, if it weren't for meeting Bruce, there's only about 6 people I would know in this entire room. And maybe a few of the people from United Way, but literally that's it. And this is the greatest gift he's ever given me, knowing all of you. Even my sadness, which has been big and hard, the one feeling that has overpowered that sadness is gratitude. And I cannot tell you for the gratitude I feel for the wonderful years that I had with Bruce Nordstrom. We lived together for almost 37 years, And because of Bruce, I also have to mention his devotion and love to his wife, Fran, who he loved dearly and raised a family with, and who was taken away all too soon. They were wonderful parents and raised 3 exceptional men. Bruce Nordstrom is the guy that took me to a romantic honeymoon to the Super Bowl, which only if you knew him seems very normal, that was our very intimate destination. He was the husband who, when I said I wanted to rescue 2 old cows, without a blink of an eye, he said, okay, we'll buy the pasture across the street from the cabin and build a barn. And then followed a number of other rescued animals. He is the husband that literally said to me every time I cooked for him for over 36 years, "This is the best dinner I have ever eaten." One time, it was on a Monday, and he said to me, "This is the best dinner we've had all week." And I said to him, "Honey, guess what? It's only Monday." And he said, "Okay, this is the best dinner of the week so far." This is the guy who lived with a bottle of Tabasco sauce by his side at all times, who loved peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich, along with salt and vinegar potato chips, cookies, and Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars. This is the man who sang and whistled his way into everyone's hearts, especially mine. He knew every Frank Sinatra song and Tony Bennett song ever written. And sometimes we usually had music playing in the house. And sometimes when you thought he was asleep in his chair, all of a sudden he would just come out with a line from the song. Patience was not his virtue. Many of you probably know that. But humbleness, loyalty, and kindness were. He loved his family, he loved his company, his University of Washington, his Seattle Golf Club, and the city of Seattle. This was a man who, after years of declining health, when he was finishing what would be one of his last breakfasts, clapped his hands together and said, "Okay, let's go sell some shoes." Nothing topped being a shoe dog. It has been my greatest joy, my greatest privilege and honor to have been by his side in joy and sorrow, in sickness and in health. We thank you, Bruce, for all that you have been to us in different ways. May we keep the many lessons we have learned from him close to our hearts. And may we continue to spread his love and goodness and kindness and always hold on to his words. Leave it better than you found it, because that is exactly what he did. I could not be more proud and honored to be his wife. And I will be loving him always. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Well, that was pretty good. I'm glad you went first. That was really good. Wow. I was going to thank everybody too, and you did a really wonderful job of that, but I do want to share my appreciation for how kind and thoughtful everyone's been, but was not mentioned there in terms of thanks that needs to be mentioned is thanking Jeanie just for being there for my dad. It was amazing. All you guys knew my dad as the same guy. He was the same guy with everyone. And, I can't tell you how Jeanie lived what my dad was all about, and that was actions and deeds and not words. And the way that you showed your commitment and your love for him was just outstanding. And again, thank you for everything you did in my dad's life over your 37 years. It's fantastic. Okay, so when I talked about the challenge to get up and talk in front of everyone is my dad was not a different person to me than he might have been to you or to Eric. He was the same guy with everyone, a very authentic and consistent person. So I was afraid there was nothing I could say that would be any different than anybody else. So I get to go early, so maybe that's going to be all right. But what I thought about was a theme that ran through so many of the condolences and remembrances I received. And they were both from my friends that grew up around my dad, and then the people of my generation at work who had my dad's influence. And they all said the same things about how he was a dad-like figure in people's lives. And so it was with that I figured, okay, this is the opportunity for me to lean into where my role should be and what to talk about. And that is, my dad was always my dad, and he was never my boss. And so I want to talk about him as a dad. And I think the best way to do that it occurred to me as I was looking in his office recently. I'd written this thing to him when he turned 61 years old, so that was about 30 years ago. And it was for his birthday, and he was an impossible guy to buy anything for. So I said, I'm going to write the 20 things my dad taught me. And I wrote that stuff down, and it was pretty personal to me, and it'll be very familiar to many of you I'm looking at here in the audience. But I guess it's okay to say it because he had it framed in his office so people could see it. So here you go. Okay, ready? Number 1, effort and applying yourself is the most important thing. I didn't get in trouble often, but I did occasionally, and it was usually about how I was disappointing my dad and perhaps letting myself down by not applying myself as much as I should when I was young. And in those cases, what he'd like to do is he'd invite us to come down to his office where we would have a little chat. Now, Eric, it probably didn't happen to you much. I think I was in trouble more than you. But yeah, I got invited to the office a few times. And the theme was always about applying yourself and trying harder. And that stuck with me. Number 2, boxers, not briefs. That needs no explanation. All right. Number 3. Now, these are his words, not mine, so here you go. Sports on TV is like sex. It's all good, but some of it is better than others. Noted. I got it. Number 4, be your brother's biggest supporter and best friend. And yeah, that was a big one with him. But I'll start by saying when we were really little, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old, that statement was a bit at odds with something that my dad did, and he bought us boxing gloves. And his thing was, if you guys want to fight, okay, we're going to fight. And you're going to put on the boxing gloves, and I'm going to be the referee. And much to the horror of my mother, this would happen. Now, by the time we laced up the boxing gloves, Kiana usually thought differently about it, and we never actually, I don't really remember coming to blows. I may have used the boxing gloves against you, but not in a refereed fight by Dad, but sorry about that. But yeah, it was a bit at odds with being your brother's biggest supporter and fan, but I think that kind of goes without saying with us, but when I wrote this 31 years ago, I mean, it was before I was married to have kids or anything, and so I didn't quite have the proper perspective on what that meant in terms of him being our biggest supporter. And so I'm going to show you some evidence of that. So I've got some pictures here I want Daniel to show. I don't know if anyone can see the screen, but okay. So this is me playing basketball in front of about 27 people in Heck Edmondson Pavilion against the PLU Lutes. And the point here is not to show you the spectacular athletic prowess that's happening, because it was pretty amazing. But if you look right here, that's my dad and my mom right there. They were at every game, And now why they didn't come sit closer to the court, I don't know. Those were his seats. So let's take a look at another picture. Okay, so this one, another of my freshman season at the University of Washington on the JV team. I think we might have been playing like Coram Ford or something here. Not the best team. And if you look, right there. So this wasn't just a one-time occurrence. That happened. Now let's see another picture. Daniel's doing it. I don't know. Yeah, there is a clicker, but Daniel's doing it. Okay, now, I had to show this one, but he's up. I can't see. Oh, there he is, right here. And my mom. That's a different game. I like that one for the fact that he's sitting there, but I also to remind myself that at one time I actually could dunk a basketball, and to remind you people too. So there's that one. Okay. And the last one, here we go again, and here he is. I know, but I can't hardly see this thing. It's up here. I think that's when Blake was sitting there too, and that was, again, being the biggest supporter. So he turned out for all my stuff every time. And then you were talking about, Jeanie, the romantic side of him going on dates and what have you, and your honeymoon. You may not recall this, but the first time I met you is when I was playing in a basketball league out at Shoreline Community College in my 20s, and he brought you to one of my games. Now, no one went to these games, but my dad did. He was into it. I met Jeanie. It probably was not very impressive. I apologize for that. And the last thing I'd say about showing up and being there and being supportive, I think a lot of you guys know I've played music for years and been in bands, and my dad and Jeanie would come often to random clubs around the Seattle area that really is not where I think he wanted to be. He's like, "What time are you going on?" I'm like, "Oh." And he always thought it was a little too loud and every song sounded the same, but he was there. He was showing up. All right, next. Number 5, be sensitive and considerate of your mother. This one was 100% uncompromising, just fact of life for us growing up. If you wanted to get called down the office, the surefire way to do that was to somehow be rude or disrespectful to Mom. Mom was the most important person in the family, full stop. And when I was older, like when I was in college, his one bit of advice for me was, you're going to do what you're going to do, but do not do it right in front of your mother and right underneath her nose. Because I don't want you to upset her, and I don't want to have to explain it or defend you. Are we clear? Like, yes, sir, we are clear. Number 6, loyalty is an important quality. I think this is consistent from what I've heard from all kinds of people what they wrote, and they use that word a lot. Number 7, the shorter your hair, the better. He cared a lot about the length of our hair. Matter of fact, it was a few years ago, I was sitting there, I got a text from Eric, and he said, I'm sitting talking to my kids, and you got to settle this for me. What was the most important thing to Dad? Short hair. All these other virtues, important. Now your hair is too long, you know. So yeah, that was a thing. Okay, next, don't spoil your dinner. I mean, he probably told me that every day. Like, you know, I'd come home, I'm eating some food, but, you know, dinner's coming, don't spoil your dinner. And that's one thing when you're 7 or 8, but you may have noticed I'm 6'7", and, you know, I'm a pretty big guy. I don't ever remember not being able to eat my dinner, but he told me that from the time I can remember until I was 50 years old. Do not spoil your dinner. Number 9, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And he didn't obviously coin that phrase, but he meant that, and he walked that talk big time. I can tell you I still need to work on that one. I'll figure that one out. Number 10, I ain't the son of no Stanley Marcus. Now, that's going to require a little explanation. What the heck does that mean? Well, Stanley Marcus is the founder of Neiman Marcus and largely regarded as like a retail genius, a generational retail leader. And my dad held him in super high esteem. But he would say things like, well, I mean, he's a fancy, smart guy, and I'm not no Stanley Marcus. I'm just a shoe dog. So what Jeanie talked about in terms of being a shoe dog, that was his thing. He was a super proud guy, but at the same time, he was super humble, which were a bit at odds with each other. And it is true that he really liked being considered a shoe dog, not a retail genius. Number 11, be respectful of others. This is a total lead by example thing. If you think about how respected my dad was, and that's probably going to come up a lot here today, it's because he was respectful of others. That's how he earned the respect, and he clearly did. Number 12, be a good neighbor. I have a neighbor story. My dad said that, and he meant it, but what he didn't want to hear was the neighbor telling him I might not have been a good neighbor. There may have been a time or two when I was in college where some people came over and we had some beer and we were in the hot tub and some girls over, I don't know, maybe been kind of loud and late. And this is when my parents were out of town, clearly. And he came back to town one Sunday and my neighbor told on me. I don't know if he's here. Oh, Joe's here, but anyway. And I will tell you that while that was all true, my dad did not like that. He did not like the neighbor telling him that I did something wrong and I screwed up. And I never got in trouble for that, and he let the neighbor have it, frankly. He was by my side all the way. Number 13, and this goes back to basketball stuff, he would always say, take it inside and post up. It was very frustrating to him watching me play basketball as often the tallest guy on the court, and I'm floating around the outside throwing up jump shots when I should have been down low, posting up and like being a center. And if you recall, my dad had a very loud and booming voice, and he would say those things from up there in the rafters, and I could hear it. Okay, I'm getting there, hang on. Number 14, never be critical of your family. And I want to say this, and it won't come as a surprise to anyone, I never once heard him criticize John, Jim, Bruce, Jack, certainly not Ann. That was just not his MO. Now, I don't doubt he may have had frustrations and disagreements, but I swear to God, I never heard that. He was a total team-first kind of guy, and, you're not going to be critical of your family. It was an amazing lesson to see. Number 15, reading improves your fund of knowledge. I was an English major in school, and he was probably about the only one that encouraged and supported that. All right. Number 16, be thoughtful. Again, he led by example in this in a big way. He was big about sending letters and cards, and he was never the guy that just went to the Hallmark store and bought something and signed his name on it. I mean, he was writing something that was meaningful, and I think a lot of people here know that and have plenty of those in their drawer. I know I sure do. Number 17, appreciate and enjoy music. I don't think he considered the music I was interested in or playing really good music, but he cut me some slack on that, and I think he was appreciative that I was involved with music. Number 18, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful. This, again, was largely college-age advice. Number 19, don't fit your shoes too short. Very important. And just when you think that wasn't a thing anymore, we all ended up having kids. And he was there with his thumb on I think your shoes are too short. You guys got to fit them in longer shoes. Got it. And my last one on the list of 20 is don't be a turkey. Neil? Yeah? Yeah. Again, I didn't get in trouble very often, but when I did, what I could hear very loudly ringing across wherever it was, and this when I was a kid, it was like, Peter, you turkey! Much to the delight of my friends, who remind me of this often to this day. Am I right? That's right. So don't be a turkey. All right, I would just conclude by saying all this was backed up by actions And again, experiences and things that you guys would all agree with because you knew him too, and he was an authentic guy, and he was always the same guy. They were not just words. That's how he lived his life. I always knew that he was proud of me, even when he called me a turkey. And, he was the best dad. And I've always been super proud to be his son. And much like what Jeanie said, while there's some sadness, I'm really overwhelmed with gratitude in having him in my life as my dad. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I sure wish I was there with all of you to laugh and to cry and to tell stories and to celebrate the giant of a man that was Bruce Nordstrom. Gosh, it's hard to summarize all the things about Bruce that I loved and admired, and I think that we all did. His selflessness, his humor, his kindness, and his temperament and decorum, and his manners and his competitiveness. I just would leave every interaction with Bruce wanting to be a better person. And I think all of you that are there today celebrating him and all of us that have known him all felt the same way. He was that kind of man who helped elevate others. I have so many great memories of him. One of my favorite things to do as an athletic director was to sit with his sister Ann at Husky men's basketball games, because Bruce and his family would sit behind us, and let's just say there was constant commentary the entire game up and down the court. There was always a comment behind us, and I would like to go on the record to say 99% of the time it was positive. But Bruce just loved those games, and he loved his student athletes that he provided scholarships for, and there was just all kinds of young men that came through UW that benefited from his generosity. But what I really loved and admired in those moments was, regardless of the outcome of a game, win or lose, he always had something nice to say. If we didn't get a win or whatever, he'd tap me on the shoulder and say, it's okay, kiddo. Next time we'll get the next one. And that was just Bruce. You learn a lot about people's character when you're in competition. And sometimes competition brings out the best in people. Sometimes it brings out the worst. But in Bruce, it always brought out that first class style, and just the way that he handled both, success and defeat was something I really learned from him along the way. It's really hard to describe the impact that he had, at the university, so profound, and yet he was so quiet about it and humble about it. And he really never asked for anything in return except for that we strive for excellence and that we lead with integrity. So as passionate as he was about the Huskies, he was most passionate, and really the love of his life was his family. And I love thinking about how he lit up every time he talked about his family, especially the boys. And so I know today, and always, he's going to be remembered for the giant he was in business and what he did philanthropically in the community. But I'm always going to remember him as a husband and as a father and as a brother, as a grandpa, as a friend, to the family, to Jeanie and Peter and Eric and Annie G and all of your families. You're in my thoughts and in my heart. Bruce is going to be dearly missed, but a giant like that will never, ever be forgotten. So much love to all of you. May he rest in peace, and go Dogs forever.
Hi, everyone. It was an honor when Jeanie called and asked if I'd be willing to say a few words about Bruce today, just as I was honored to consider Bruce a dear friend like so many of you. In addition to our friendship, I considered Bruce a true mentor and a role model, one who taught me both in my personal life, the one he helped lead at Nordstrom, and what he did to give back to our community. I first met Bruce in my late 20s after going to work for what was known then as Children's Orthopedic Hospital, today Seattle Children's. We had an all-women's board at that time, and Bruce's late wife, Fran, sat as a member of that board. Bruce and his sister Ann grew up in a house where their mother had served as an active volunteer on behalf of the hospital. That legacy continued when in the early 1980s, we formed a foundation. Our then board chair, Mary Gates, asked her friend Bruce to be a member of this new board, which he fortunately agreed to. It is during that time that I became acquainted with both Fran and Bruce. We were excited when soon thereafter Bruce became our board chair, and as its executive, it was during that time we got to know each other. Back then, we would meet in Bruce's downtown office. I always looked forward to those meetings. Children's business was always first and foremost, but we always had other things to talk about, like our mutual love of basketball. We covered the Sonics, the controversy surrounding what was called the game of the century and the 1981 Mercer Island versus Shalo Park Boys High School basketball tournament. Sorry, Eric, Pete. And his almost childlike pleasure in hosting Coach K from Duke on a visit to Seattle. And of course, his beloved Huskies and how they might fare in the upcoming season. Whenever we met, I was always taken back by his humility and the complete trust and unconditional support he showed. He was always willing to share his experiences, and I was his best audience. Bruce would say to me, "Look, what do I know? I'm just a guy who sells shoes, but maybe you should consider this." Even though 2 decades separated us in age, we had much in common. We both had Scandinavian heritages and grandfathers who sought their fortune in the Klondike. We came from multi-generational family businesses, one retail, very big in size, and one farming, much, much smaller. Knowing I grew up on a farm, he knew hard work was expected, and hard work was something he deeply valued. It was part of what Bruce was taught early in his life and just part of his DNA. Like my grandparents before me, my 2 brothers are still farming in Puyallup. One of my great joys over the years has been bringing Bruce and Jeanie fresh strawberries and raspberries from the valley. Knowing my farming background, one time at a Nordstrom family 4th of July party at Bruce and Jeanie's cabin on the canal, Bruce was excited to show me their newly constructed raised beds in the vegetable garden. He said, "Well, what do you think?" I remember saying something like, "Well, the good news is your corn is knee-high on the 4th of July. And the bad news," he asked. I said, "You have too many suckers, and thus you're not going to get much corn if you don't sucker them." "Do you mind if I do that?" I asked. "Be warned, it's not pretty." He said, No, I trust you, go for it." And I can't remember a time when Bruce said no to me. His trust in people was like no one else I've ever known. Bruce loved his city of Seattle. In his memoir he wrote 17 years ago, he said, "Anyone who knows our family understands we are Seattle first. We feel it here in the heart." Thus, I think it is fitting that this celebration is here today, surrounded by all this beautiful art, and in the shadow of perhaps the most iconic symbol of Seattle, the Space Needle. I also think of Nordstrom as iconic to this city. For me, this includes the downtown store, which Bruce played such a critical role in building and keeping. Also, what the longtime Nordstrom men's clothing salesman Pat Kennedy titled the book he co-wrote with his experiences at Nordstrom, what is known as the Nordstrom Way. The Nordstrom way of servant leadership and putting the customer first, high integrity, loyalty, setting the highest standards, and creating long-lasting relationships. This is all part of the culture that Bruce both helped create and steward at Nordstrom. A friend of ours grew up in the area and had polio as a child. Only Nordstrom would accommodate her need to have a shoe size 8 for her left foot while needing a shoe size 7 for her right. That is the Nordstrom way. And it makes you think just how many times she's told that story. It is what their family minister, the Reverend Dale Turner, referred to as the gospel according to Nordstrom. As someone who grew up in the business and went on to become its patriarch, nobody embodied these Nordstrom way qualities more than Bruce. Both he and Nordstrom made you feel proud to be from Seattle. Can you imagine downtown Seattle without Nordstrom? It's hard to imagine. 25 years ago, when our daughter Allie was 11 years old, her class had to do a project which would feature a Northwest entrepreneur. Growing up in an anniversary sale home, she knew I was familiar with the Nordstrom family and wondered what I thought about featuring founder John W. Nordstrom for her project. I told her I thought it was a great idea. Then she asked if I could arrange her for a meeting with Bruce Nordstrom. I smiled and told her, I like your style, you're going right to the top. Bruce happily accepted her invitation, and so it was decided the three of us would sit down together over lunch to hear her interview with Bruce about his grandfather. Her mom, Cassie, and I helped her prepare for the meeting, what questions she was thinking about asking, and what was she going to wear, all those kinds of things. So the day came, and there she was looking so cute, sitting next to Bruce with her little notepad of questions. She had a portable tape recorder, so after asking a question, she pressed record, and Bruce would answer her questions. When it was over, he asked her what was the title of the project would be, and she said, "These boots are made for walking." This was such a Bruce moment. He immediately made Allie feel comfortable and took her questions to heart without once showing signs that he needed to go. Just another example of who Bruce was. Maybe the most memorable way Bruce was a role model to me was as a family man, a husband, a brother, a father, a grandfather, and more. You couldn't leave Bruce's office without his standing up behind his desk to go to the wall and point one, if not many, or if not all, of the many family photos. Family was always the core of who Bruce was. He was so proud of his family, both past and present. Once looking at that wall, Bruce pointed to a picture of his son Blake. He said, "Now there's a good guy." He paused and then added, "and someone you can be proud of." When Blake passed so suddenly 6 years ago, I wrote Bruce a card and told him how much Blake was like his dad. His smile, his outlook, and just his way. It was a compliment. This is only something a parent can wish for in a relationship with their children. Bruce treasured and enjoyed that relationship with Blake. I will always carry certain memories of Bruce, the family man. One that will always stand out is a memory I hold of Bruce with his beloved Jeanie. They were standing high on a bluff near the lift at their cabin home, arm in arm with big smiles. They were waving goodbye to Cassie and me as we left there by boat. It was a wonderful sight, which I'll always hold dear. Another image is one of Bruce with his sister Ann. I was stopped at a stoplight near the Westin just down the street when I saw Bruce and Ann standing there waiting for the light. They were in deep conversation. At that moment, it provided me a reflection of their close and loving relationship as brother, big brother, and little sister. More than once, Bruce said to me, "You know, in a different time, she would have been running this company." Another memory I will hold is Bruce with a tear in his eye watching his granddaughter Alex and her mom and his daughter-in-law Molly walk down the garden path at Alex's wedding, and being the supportive dad and father-in-law that Bruce was, attending Pete and Brandy's Smooch annual benefit for children's, with a much younger crowd, as we heard, of music lovers, featuring wonderful but yet very, very loud Northwest artists in their music. I believe this is what will be Bruce's greatest legacy, family man. I too believe it's a legacy he would hold most dear. We heard about Bruce's book, the title of which, Leave It Better Than You Found It. And I always thought this title was not only a good piece of advice and an aspiration to what you want to achieve in business, but it was a wonderful roadmap for life. This world was left a better place because of Bruce, and I'm just grateful to have been a small part of it. Thank you.
It's an honor for me to be here to say a few words about Bruce Nordstrom's extraordinary life and impact. My name's John Fine. I was the treasurer at Puget Sound Bank, and I knew Bruce some in the business world. I was also the CEO at United Way of King County, and I knew Bruce quite well in the philanthropic world. When Bruce Nordstrom passed away, the world lost a giant of a man. He was a giant in the retail world. He was a giant in our community, including in the philanthropic world. And he was a giant, as you've heard, in his family. I'll leave it mostly to others to speak about Mr. Bruce's legacy in the retail world, but I do want to say that I think he might have been the inventor of customer service and team-oriented leadership and the inverted pyramid management structure. But if he didn't actually invent those things, he surely did exemplify them. What I do want to talk a bit about is his impact in our community and in the world of philanthropy. Bruce helped make his company a model for corporate involvement and support for the community. And he particularly did so when he became the campaign chair at United Way. I would say that position was United Way's, and as a result, our human services community's biggest, most influential volunteer role. And Bruce jumped in with both feet. As usual, he was engaged, smart, and successful. He told me that the hallmarks of his campaign for us were the successes he had raising money and the success he had as one of the people who helped get Microsoft involved in the community. There were a lot of people who claimed that, but I think Bruce actually did help do that. Bruce also jumped in with his heart, and he told me that the hallmark for him personally was meeting his dear wife, Jeanie, there at United Way. Now, the official role of campaign chair lasts 1 year, and it does require a lot of effort and hard work. But the unofficial role lasts well beyond that and involves being a continuing key leader for United Way as a supporter, as an advisor, and as a mentor. When Bruce finished his official role, he never gave up his unofficial willingness to help and to serve. I would visit him regularly to ask for his advice and guidance, and really, just because I enjoyed being with him, hearing his fascinating history and stories, and just being in his presence. Bruce felt that some things in the world had changed irrevocably. For instance, he was tall for his era, and he was a basketball player, and he averred that he wouldn't have the height, speed, or athletic ability to compete at a high level in basketball. I did agree with him on that. But he also felt that some things hadn't changed in the world, that fundamental values had remained the same, and operating a business or a philanthropy based on those values was still a solid practice. And I agreed with him on that one as well. During our visits, besides talking about anything and everything, I would get around to asking him for advice on some of the big strategic issues, as well as on some of the details of operating our organization. Bruce's initial response to me, as you've heard from some others, was, "I'm just a shoe salesman, and what do I know?" Now, I didn't make it a habit of contradicting Bruce, but I did say to him, "You're well more than that, to me, to our community, and to our world." And invariably, he would give me his counsel, which was always considered, wise, and generous. He knew people, he knew business, and he knew customer service incredibly well, and he helped us apply that expertise to philanthropy. And I and we could always count on him. He had an outstanding sense of what worked and what customers, or in our case donors, were looking for and what it took to succeed. But for all his capability and the admiration and respect he engendered, he never lost his sense of humility. I would sometimes ask him to speak at one or another of our important events, and in his usual self-effacing way, Bruce would say, I don't think anyone's interested in hearing what I have to say. So I'm sitting there thinking, here is a community icon, and people hung on his every word, and he doesn't even think they'll be interested. I would persist and assure him that they actually were interested in hearing from him, but he wasn't buying any of that. So that's when I would pivot and I would say, well, it would help United Way and help us raise money for a worthy cause. And then he would relent and agree to speak for us. And invariably, Bruce drew others in, motivated them, and was a wonderful combination of both eloquence and being down to earth. He was always incredibly generous with his knowledge, time, and resources, and we were enormously fortunate to have him with us in our community, at United Way, and for the many philanthropic endeavors he supported and helped. He was truly a community and philanthropic giant. But I would also like to briefly mention, as others have, about Bruce and his family, where he was also a giant. Whenever I talk to him about his family, his extended family, and particularly his sons Blake, Pete, and Eric, and his wife Jeanie, he absolutely lit up. His eyes, his body language, his demeanor, from his head to his toes, he exuded tremendous pride and passion for all of you, and it was so clear how much he loved you. So the retail world and our community did indeed lose a giant, but so too did his family, and particularly his wife Jeanie. We were all blessed by his extraordinary gifts to us, and we will miss him dearly, but his wonderful legacy will live on. Thank you, Mr. Bruce, for all your gifts to our world, our community, and your family, and for all you did for us.
Good evening. I would so much rather be there with you, present, at this time when we gather in great sadness for the loss of someone we hoped would live forever. He's that kind of mensch. At the same time, we share such gratitude for the presence of Bruce in our lives. I do want to express special condolences to the family, to you, Jeanie, to you, Eric and your family, and Pete and your family, and Molly and your family, and Ann to you. But I hold for all of us very much the same impact, because I've recognized as the years have gone on, and it's been acceptable to use this kind of language, even in a business situation, that Bruce taught us how to be love. That love is the energy that has propelled this company, this family for 4 generations. Bruce truly knew how to see and encourage and lead from a place of supporting in all of his duties, of recognizing while holding the highest of standards, while being totally passionate. He learned to see each of us. So calling out each of the members of the family, I will always hold you in great deference. But I will tell you, one of my greatest joys is being an honorary and very real and a visceral part of Nordstrom. Then I believe that's what Bruce makes possible. So I just want to say, well done, O good and faithful servant. Well done. Well done. You have not only encouraged us to leave things better, but you've shown us how to leave better every person we touch. You have engendered something that is so large, so beautiful, so impactful, and so generational, multi-generational, that you have left this world a better place. And I am so grateful to have been a part of it and to be able to send you and all of us love today.
My name's Ray Johnson. I used to work there. Thanks for the invite, Jeanie. Pete, E, thanks for the invite. When Jeanie called, wow, we were taken aback, Artie and I. We get to go to Mr. Bruce's event. Okay, yeah, but then she didn't quit with that. She had another thing in mind. Hi, Ann. She had another thing in mind. She said, and then we'd like to have you do a little talk as well. Oh, Jeanie, it's well known in our family, the first guy to cry will be Ray under those kinds of circumstances. So she said, well, think about it and call me back tomorrow. And I did. And she did say, yes, I want you to. So here I am. I really do appreciate your invite. I really do. In 21 years there, as you can imagine, I had plenty of interaction with the whole bunch of them, these two included. If my mom and dad had any idea where this farm boy from Sunnyside, Washington, would have a relationship with these guys, with Mr. Bruce, Mr. John, Mr. Jim, McMillan, Bender, they wouldn't have believed me. They knew me better than the Nordstrom guys. And so it's such an honor to have been a part of all of that. I've been retired for 24 years. And I'm sure things have changed since then. But there are still some principles by which the company lives, and they're certainly to be admired. Not too long ago, I was, remember now, I'm an employee. Not too long ago, I was on the line with Mr. Bruce. And I don't even remember now what we were talking about. It was maybe 10 years ago. 7 years ago. And we were talking, and for some reason I just felt compelled to say, Mr. Bruce, can I stop calling you at 8, I was 75 or so, can I stop calling you Mr. and start calling you Bruce? And he said, Ray J, you can call me anything you want. So is Mr. Bruce. Dang right. A quick story about in family. I believe these two guys were known as his pals. And I heard him say that on a number of occasions. Our son is 54, and the other day he told me, Dad, I'm glad you still call me pal. And so I said, you know where I got it, right? He did. He knew. But the folks that have gone before me here knew darn well he was a family guy like no one you can imagine. He loved those three guys. I do have a couple of kind of interesting transactions to remind us all of. We opened a store in Indianapolis. It didn't go real good for a variety of reasons, but the sales expectations aren't what we thought they might be. So Mr. Bruce did a meeting there, and he was very uplifting, not condescending, not mad, uplifting, encouraging. Everybody was very excited as the meeting was concluded, and he stepped away from the microphone, and then he stepped back. And then he said, and don't tell me about the wind and the waves. Get the boat to the dock. That was kind of standard stuff at our store for a while. Get the boat to the dock. There was another transaction that I had with Mr. Bruce. I had hundreds of them, but one that I remember specifically, I was a store manager downtown, and Mr. Bruce appeared in my office door and said, Ray J, how you doing? And I said, Mr. Bruce, I am so frustrated. I have to-do lists, and honestly, I can't get to the bottom of these to-do lists. And he said, Ray J, that's why we like you around here. And so I thought, now, what did that mean? Did that mean I'm looking for an assistant? We didn't do assistant store managers. And then it occurred to me. I went around the corner. My secretary was right. She could hear everything that was going on. I said, Gloria, I think I just got my annual review. Sure enough, that was my annual review. Our family is deeply indebted, not only because of my career there, but when he was 9 years old, our son Jeff was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And long story short there, he's been well cared for and has been the benefit of a lot of things that Bruce Nordstrom did. As an example, if any of you remember the event that Nordstrom sponsored that's called Beat the Bridge? Tell me, give me your hand. How many of you folks worked in, or you took advantage of Beat the Bridge? How many of you ran? Good for you guys. Thank you so much. There were a bunch of us who were a lot younger, less disabled, and we all ran. And so we came up with this idea, you know what, let's try to do a fundraiser. Actually, first, Artie and I were part of a group of people who put the local chapter of the JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, together. And so we were thinking, and of course that local bunch was supposed to raise money. That's what they're there for. So we came up with the idea, you know, let's do this. Let's try to put a race together. And we'll have people pay to get in the race, and maybe they'll go out and raise some money, and it'll benefit JDRF. And so the whole family, Bruce led the thing, but the whole family was involved with that. And so we got it all together. And of course, I mean, if you remember it, it began and ended in Husky Stadium. You think a guy whose last name is Johnson, even though he managed the downtown Nordstrom store, could use the stadium for beginning and leaving that event? Not a way. Nordstrom did it though. And so, sure enough, we put this race together. The beat the bridge part was kind of fun. You had to get, we went across the Montlake Bridge, and then the western, what's it called? University Bridge, yeah. We went across, and then we came back across the University Bridge, and you had to get there within a certain period of time. You didn't have to break any records. You just had to get there, because what was going to happen, that bridge was going to raise and let the sailboats through. So that's where the name Beat the Bridge came from. And so, and then Mr. John got an idea. He said, you know what, let's do a party for those who didn't beat the bridge. So there was a band and there was all kinds of stuff going on. It was rumored that it's more fun not to beat the bridge than to beat the bridge. So it was well attended, and things went well, except on Monday morning, as was always the case, we had a management meeting, and somebody asked, well, how much money did you guys raise for Beat the Bridge? Well, we overspent a little. And it was our first time out, and so the Nordstrom guys wrote some checks, and by golly, we made a little money, $10,000, $15,000, something like that. So it got us started. It was a good start because the Nordstrom Beat the Bridge has gone on for 40 years, and it raised just a click under $40 million. The beauty of that is not only the end result, but the beauty of it is also that typically a sponsor for a charity doesn't stay for all that time. I mean, they choose a charity, they fund it for a short time, then they move on to somebody else. I got a hunch they didn't do that because they had an employee whose son was diabetic. That's my hunch. And it was being successful in raising money for the cure. So in time, Miss Artie, my wife, the mother, who probably knows very much about juvenile diabetes, as most doctors now, had joined the international board headquartered in New York. And so in our success with the Beat the Bridge, she took those ideas and she exposed all the other directors to the idea. Maybe other JDRF offices ought to undertake something like this. So in fact, we talked to Mr. Bruce, and he was nervous about the Nordstrom name, his Nordstrom name, and being the centerpiece of answering all these questions about him and all of that. So instead, the name of the event was, what was the name of the event, AJ? Oh yeah, it was named the Nordstrom Tradition. And so other stores or other JDRF offices throughout the country went to work and raising money on a like event, and those who were most successful got to come to New York and bringing their drivers to New York, and we celebrated the Beat the Bridge success. And so what we did is we had, frankly, I probably shouldn't even say this, you guys, sorry about that, but during the early days of Beat the Bridge, you got to choose one of three places. You either ran, or you Yahoo'd for the other runners, or you sold shoes. One of those three things, you got to choose. Well, some of the people who were among those best money raisers in our chapter got to go to New York with Mr. Bruce and Artie and I and our son Jeff. So we got on the Nordstrom plane, big deal in those days, and went to New York. Mr. Bruce got involved in some business deals while in New York. Artie was at meetings at JDRF offices, and Jeff and I entertained, I think, about a half a dozen of our salespeople because of their good efforts and to make this whole thing work. Mr. Bruce even got his picture taken with Mary Tyler Moore. And we have it for proof. He probably here today, he would say, no, that wasn't me. No, that he did get his picture taken with Mary Tyler Moore. So to say it's been a delight to have been a part of this company and this family is an understatement, to say the least. And the previous speakers were dead right. He was an extraordinary person. And it would be very difficult to find any shortcomings in Bruce Nordstrom's life. So thank you, you guys, for carrying on the good work. And thank you, Jeanie. Where are you? There you are, Jeanie, for including me here today. Thanks a lot. Now I'm going to get some coaching just like I did at home, okay?
Can I have 5 minutes? I mean, you give everybody time, okay? I just want to do my Bruce story, which was part of what he said, but he didn't identify it as my story. Okay, come on.
So this is Artie Johnson. She's the one I was referring to as the JDRF pusher.
Yeah, I was. Oh, there we go. Is that okay now? I don't have to shout. Okay, good. So my Mr. Bruce story came about after Beat the Bridge. That had gone on for several years. And when I entered on the international board, working with my staff partner, we talked about doing walks around the country and thought that was a good idea. But then I was told, we want to have one of the Nordstrom men here. And I said, well, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen because they don't do that. And so he said, well, how can we work this out? So we talked about it and came up with the Nordstrom tradition because what they wanted to do was to invite Nordstrom to the New York Gala. So, okay, I said, okay, let me see if I can get this done. So I walked into Mr. Bruce's office, never been in there before, and I'm thinking, what the hell do I think I'm doing? But I sat down, and he was very casual, and I was kind of shaky, and I was telling him what we wanted to do. And what we wanted to do was to invite some of the other stores to do a walk with their JDF chapter walk and raise money. And those people out in the field who raised the most money would come to New York. And it was Nordstrom's tradition was not standing up and saying, I did this, but we stood up, Nordstrom people across the country. And when I was done talking, he just sat there for a little bit, and I thought, and then he turns to me and he says, how can I say no to you? I said, thank you. And then when I walked out, I thought, oh, shoot, I should have asked for some money.
Okay. Pete.
Perhaps love is like a resting place, a shelter from the storm. It exists to give you comfort. It is there to keep you warm. And in your times of trouble, when you are most alone, The memory of love will bring you home. Perhaps love is like a window, perhaps an open door. It invites you to come closer. It wants to show you more. And even if you lose yourself and don't know what to do, the memory of love will see you through. Oh, love to some is like a cloud, to some as strong as steel. For some a way of living, for some a way to feel. And some say love is holding on, and some say letting go, and some say love is everything, and some say they don't know. Perhaps love is like the ocean, full of conflict, full of pain, like a fire when it's cold outside, thunder when it rains. If I should live forever and all my dreams come true, my memories of love will be of you. My memories of love will be of you.
It is bright up here. Hi, I'm Lee. I am Eric and Julie's daughter, and this has just been so special. Thank you all for being here. Our grandpa is the easiest person in the world to celebrate. Not a day went by that we didn't know and feel how much he genuinely loved being our grandpa. Family was everything for him, and his unconditional love for his family was so important. Going through the world with that kind of love in your life allows you to be who you are, which is easily one of the greatest gifts he gave the seven of us. He also was one of the funniest people. He taught us that it's the body, not the sweater, that it's never just chilly, but rather colder than a well-digger's fanny, and that there are many ways to respond when someone asks how you are. I'm better than I look, another day older and deeper in debt, and, well, I'm standing. He was, to borrow his phrase, the best out west, and how lucky are we to call him our grandpa.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm Blake's daughter, and I'm honored to be here today to celebrate a man we were all lucky enough to call our grandpa. Growing up, I was often told how much I look like Grandpa. As a preteen girl, let me tell you, this was not my most favorite thing to hear, that I looked like a 70-year-old man. Now I cherish being told that. Not for the superficial reason of looks, but knowing that physically and mentally, I have a part of someone that I admire so much. Our grandpa lived by his values every day, embedding them deeply in all of us. I have a 15-month-old daughter, Blake, with my husband, Ryan, and it brings me so much happiness knowing Grandpa got to meet her. I wasn't able to tell my dad I was pregnant or have my dad at my daughter's first birthday, but I was able to share those with Grandpa. And as both men were extremely similar, it gave me such comfort seeing my grandpa beam with joy anytime he saw her. She won't remember these moments, but I can't wait to share the photos and videos with her and more importantly, to teach her the values he has instilled in our family. Woo! Hormones, okay. All of us today are shaped by the lessons and values our grandpa taught us. He would light up a room with his smile, and he had a genuine love of people. He instilled in all of us a strong work ethic, humility, and above all, to put family first. I am fortunate to have grown up feeling as though my cousins are more my siblings, and I have my grandpa to thank for that. Don't get me wrong, he was human and had his moments. He put mayonnaise on everything. And he instilled deep anxiety in me about being early to everything. He also had a blind spot for sports, as Uncle Pete mentioned earlier. Through last year, he would still bring up how I played basketball. I played 20 years ago in high school. I was on the bench 90% of the game. I was not good. Nonetheless, Grandpa still enthusiastically talked about going to my games. Jokes aside, through family dinners and weekends at the cabin, and above all, unwavering love and support, Grandpa's value of family has been implemented into our lives. I can't wait to continue teaching his lessons to my children and to continue his legacy in small ways every day.
My name is Andy. I'm Blake's son. I will never forget the profound impact of being in my grandfather's presence. Over the past few years, our relationship transformed. What we didn't discuss was felt. Often I would sit with him simply to connect. In his simple gestures and quiet strength, I found a source of immense comfort and inspiration. His presence was more than just physical. It was a source of warmth and kindness that illuminated the lives of all that knew him. Whether through a reassuring smile or a listening ear, he possessed a remarkable ability to make everyone feel valued and cherished. During the initial months of COVID, I had the unique privilege of spending extended time at the cabin with my grandparents. Mornings were spent meditating with my grandmother. Afternoons involved stoking the fire and completing puzzles with my grandpa. In the evenings, I prepared dinner for the three of us. I'm particularly proud of convincing Grandpa to try kale and avocado and hearing him share, "This is delicious," and mostly the best meal I've ever had. His legacy lives on in the memories we hold dear and the lessons he imparted through his presence. It serves as a reminder of the enduring power of connection and the profound impact we can have on each other's lives just by being there. As we honor his memory, let us carry forward the gift of presence he so generously shared with us, remembering the importance of showing up for friends and family and striving to touch others' hearts with the same warmth and grace that he embodied. I love you very much, Grandpa.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sam. I am Eric and Julie's son. There are many things I will always remember about our grandpa. How much pride he took to be from the state of Washington. He'd been known to order oysters from the Pacific Northwest as far out as the East Coast. He loved the University of Washington, a Husky win, and walking through the downtown Nordstrom store. And for as much joy as all these things gave him, he never seemed happier than when he was talking about my cousins, our dads, and our grandma. He just loved them all so, so much. One of the things that strikes me most about our grandpa was how adored he was by so many different people. You talk to nearly anyone who had the pleasure of meeting him, and you'd see their face just light up. And speak so glowingly of their interaction with him. I think the reason he left such an impression on so many is he was so authentic and genuine in how much he cared for those who came into his life. I'll always remember his face and voice whenever any of us came into the room. He would light up with excitement to see and talk to you. It was impossible not to feel just a little bit better than the second before you saw him. And he did that with so many people in his life. We grew up watching him have the same effect on near strangers, friends, his family at the store, and of course, all of us. Our grandpa had a favorite saying, "Leave it better than you found it." And there were many ways he taught us to live by it. Working hard, knowing what you value, being proud of what you're doing and who you are. And most importantly for me, by how genuinely caring for those in your life that you meet, you can leave anyone just a little bit better than when you found them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm Eric and Julie's daughter. Our grandpa was a man of many virtues, but above all, he cherished family. He always made sure we knew how much he loved us and was proud of us. The only thing he might have been disappointed in us for was that none of us attended the University of Washington, although there still is hope for Mickey and Chet. It didn't take much to make him happy: a Husky basketball game, a mayonnaise sandwich, a good puzzle, and a comfortable chair. And no one loved the Pacific Northwest more than our grandpa. On a family trip to the Caribbean many years ago, we were looking out over the beautiful scenery, and he remarked something along the lines of, "It's nice, but it's nothing compared to Hood Canal." He was kind, generous, full of wisdom, and many grandpa-isms that never failed to make us laugh, a crowd favorite being, "Have a salad." Grandpa was an incredible storyteller, something I loved as a kid when he would read books to us, and even more so as an adult, when he would tell stories about our dads growing up. He never missed an opportunity to talk about how proud he was of all our dads and everything that they did. He taught us the value of hard work, loyalty, unwavering familial support, and integrity. Grandpa was a shining example of love, kindness, and generosity, and his legacy will continue to illuminate our lives as we all strive to leave the world better than we found it.
Okay, so I didn't really have something prepared for this, but I do really like my grandpa, so I'm gonna say some things. I don't really have the greatest memory when it comes to things, but there are some things that really, when I think of grandpa, I think of this. I think about him Hood Canal playing with his puzzles. He really liked his puzzles. I always see them there. Then I'd try to do them, and then I'd give up because they were really difficult. He really liked his dogs. He really liked Grandma Jeanie. He really liked everybody in the family. And he was even when he was getting closer to not being most alive, I guess. That sounded really bad. He was always smiling and seemed to be happy. He'd always try to say something even if we wouldn't understand exactly what it was. And he was always just really nice and kind to everyone. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows that, but that's how I feel.
Hi, I'm Chet. My grandpa was kind and thoughtful. He always had a smile on his face. Like the time we played a game on the boat, when my grandpa put something in his mouth, and it was hard to understand him, which made us all laugh. When he came to my basketball games, it made me feel like he was always there. I will remember his smile.
Well done, you guys. Very proud. All right, I get to wrap this up, but I also have the mic, and I get to talk about what I want to talk about. And I like to talk about my dad. Part of what goes with growing up as a Nordstrom in this town is mostly when people first meet us, they say, "Who's your dad?" And I don't want this to come out wrong. I love all my uncles, but I was always super proud to say, Bruce is my dad. And usually I'd be on the receiving end of some story. As has been mentioned, both Pete and Jeanie mentioned, we've gotten a lot of those stories in the last several weeks. Your cards and letters, but particularly the stories have meant a lot and have been very heartwarming. Some of the common threads, have been mentioned, but a few things that certainly struck me with all the ones I received. His values. His values were always very clear. What he stood for came across to everyone. He had this weird ability. He was a busy guy. He had a big job and all that stuff, but he always came across as having time for people, any people. And so many of the stories I'd get were people, classmates from college, coworkers, people I didn't know, and people who I didn't know had ever met my dad. And they would tell a story of how they looking for advice, and he was happy to meet him in his office, how he'd see him on the street, and just seemed to have time for everyone. Got a lot of comments of people who, on their birthday, Dad and Jeanie would call him and sing happy birthday. I guess he did that a lot. I thought I was kind of special that they did that for, but that was pretty cool. And a lot, especially from people who worked in the company, would talk about just the impact to them when he would say, "I'm proud of you." And he said that a lot. And as Pete mentioned, he's an extremely authentic person, and he absolutely meant it. When we moved back to Seattle, it's 1995, I knew that a big gift I was getting then is that not only would I be in the same town as my dad, but that I would get to see him a lot without having even to plan it, because he was down the hall at work. In particular, we had family lunches on Mondays, and much like he would have with his cousins, we would have family lunch every Monday, and it would be, Pete and Blake and me and Jamie. Anne was usually there. Oftentimes in those days, Jack and John would show up, and it was great. During the pandemic, we were all remote, and I missed it. I missed it a lot, and so we did Zoom lunches. Not easy getting Dad to get the Zoom link, but we got that, and we actually went to twice a week of doing it, and it was awesome. These last couple months, he wasn't able to come in the store, and Pete and I would go down to his condo on Monday at noon and have lunch with him, and he was struggling, but it was so clear how he'd like to have us there, and I get concerned about saying goodbye, but I knew the best way to say goodbye to him where he wouldn't give me a bad time is to say, I got to go sell some shoes. And he says, "Okay, yeah, that's good." Few things I want to share. It's come out. He was a humble and oftentimes self-deprecating guy, but it was more than that. He loved the hard workers of the world. He loved the underdogs of the world. He loved the people that came from humble beginnings. And in particular, he really connected with his grandfather's story, his immigrant story. He loved a great immigrant story because he loved that people who worked for what they had, who lived their life with a purpose, who were trying to get better and improve things for their family. And his grandpa's story meant a lot to him. And I think that translated to how much he loved our people that worked in the company, in particular our people that worked on the front lines and dealt with customers. He loved walking the stores, particularly downtown these last number of years, and just meeting people and really hearing them and learning their stories. He loved that Ray Johnson came from a farm in Sunnyside and became president of the company. He loved that Betsy Sanders at the time had the most important job in our company when we expanded to California at a time when women didn't have executive positions. He loved those things. One thing he didn't love is people who felt they were superior. Throwing out fancy degrees or titles, he didn't have much patience for that. And that was genuine. He didn't feel he was superior to anyone. One of the things that translates to, he would befriend everyone. The often struck us just kind of random people interacting with, be it the barista on the corner, be it the waiter, be it anyone. And over the years, Dan and Jeanie would have Thanksgiving dinner up at their cabin, and they would invite anyone who didn't have a place to go, and we would have our family a little contest. It's like if we could see the most extended connection to either Dad and Jeanie, and he loved that. But what, as Pete said, mostly what I want to talk about, he was just the best dad ever. And I always felt that he loved being our dad. And that really he wanted nothing more than just to be with us. I think sometimes people would look at us going to lunch down at the grill and sitting at Cindy's table and thinking that we're devising brilliant retail strategies. We were not. He just loved being with us. And there's a lot of examples, and Pete hit on a lot of sports examples. A couple that I want to share with you. When I was, I think 11 years old, I was a little dribbler. For those of you not from Mercer Island, that was a title of honor. That was our boys basketball team. And we went to this tournament in Texas. And back in those days, youth sport teams did not travel. So that was a big deal. And it was a big deal even though where we were going was Levelland, Texas. No offense if there happens to be someone from Levelland here. Not the most exciting town in the world. It's outside of Lubbock in West Texas. And as the name suggests, Levelland does not have a very interesting topography. So as players, we would stay at families' homes. And my mom and dad went down, and they were staying at the Levelland Motel. Not a nice place. So in between games, I walked over to see him. It's a small town. So I walked over, and one of the other parents said, "Oh yeah, your dad's out at the pool." So I walk out at the pool, quickly noticed that the pool did not have any water in it. And I'm looking around, I don't see him, and this is West Texas, the wind's blowing, sand's whipping across. I go up the edge of the pool, and there at the bottom of the pool was my dad brought a chaise lounge down at the bottom of the pool. and was reading his book as the sand is blowing over the top of him. And he loved it. And that being there, he talked about coming to our games, and he never lost that. So unlike Pete, I'm not a very talented musician, but I did take up the guitar late in life with my great friend Steve Goldfarb, and we have his teacher, and every 6 months he gets other teachers to form a band around the students, and you can play a couple songs. He rents out space on a Saturday afternoon, and we call it the Jam. And just to be clear, it's a recital. It's a lot of children, a lot of parents and grandparents there to see their children. And when Steve and I get up, they're not so thrilled to see us get up. And my dad would come to those, and afterwards, like, "You are so good." I'm comfortable enough in my skin. I am not good. And he was just a proud dad. And he's not someone who's, gives the participation trophy just showing up. He had standards, and while there's no doubt, I know he loved me and was proud of me, he's somebody you didn't want to disappoint. And I'm glad Pete mentioned that he may have gotten in a little more trouble than I did growing up. I was wondering how to bring that up because it's important to this story. I didn't get in a lot of trouble growing up, but in high school, I was a member of of DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of America. They kind of teach you to be a retailer. So there's this competition, and somehow we end up going to the state tournament, which was right here at Seattle Center. And my friend Steve was there, Julie was there. Julie and I were not dating at that time. The big outing was taking the ferry over to Blakely Island, Tillicum Village there, and I was pursuing a girl, and she was not in DECA, so we're like, God, there's a lot of people around. We'll get someone else's badge, and we'll sneak her in, and it'll be great. And our teacher will never know. Our teacher didn't know for about 5 minutes. So okay, she catches us, and she was upset. So the next day, Sunday night, I get home and the phone rings, and it's my teacher calling my dad to tell him of this egregious violation that I was at the root of. And I could hear him, and I'm nervous. I'm sitting there on the stairs kind of listening to him, and I can hear him saying, yes, very serious, yes, but, yep, yes, I understand, it's serious, yes, but, yes, I understand. He goes, but it's not like he was selling drugs or anything. I'm like, yes. And that, it became clear, one of his soft spots for us, we were 3 boys growing up, my poor mom, but he was all in anything about us trying to get girls. He was all in. I think I got not only not in trouble, I think I got an attaboy on that. He's a great example, as has been talked about, his values, and I love the list that Pete had. Certainly high on the list was be nice to your mom, but as Pete mentioned, supporting your brothers was right there again and again and again. And being the youngest, I've very disproportionately have been the beneficiary of that. Received a lot more support than I fear I've given, and it has come across so much as how much family has meant to him, and to me, if there's something that will endure well after he's gone, is supporting your family, and I mean really supporting your family, I see that in our kids and their cousins, and it's something that means a lot. All right, lastly, while he's a hard worker and lived his values and was purposeful, thoughtful in his life, if he was here, he'd be the first to say that he was also extremely lucky. And to me, a few things top the list on that. Number one, he's super lucky to have his sister Ann. Talk about family supporting. It's to see them, especially these last several years, as my dad needed help more and more. To see those two together was one of the most heartwarming things that I've ever seen. And he's lucky to have you as a sister. He was like weirdly lucky in marriage too. Like first with our mom, who was just so terrific, and then somehow to hit the jackpot twice in this life and find Jeanie. We've heard a lot of what my dad was great at. I will say one thing he was horrible at was being single. When my mom passed away, he was a miserable single man, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Jeanie saved his life. And for us to see him at the depths and to see the joy that his life exemplified, so much of that's because of you, Jeanie, so thank you so much. And to all of you, I can't thank you enough for, you all have some connection to our dad and contributed in big and small ways to a truly wonderful, joyful life. A life so well lived that we should celebrate it. We should all be so fortunate, and I can't thank you enough for what a great life you helped contribute for my dad. We appreciate all the love and support you've given our family these last several weeks. We appreciate you coming here. It's my duty to inform you that you're welcome to go to the gallery space, the garden. We have food and drink. I'm told it's cooler in there, so please go in there. And again, from all of us, thank you so much.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again. again some sunny day. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Yes, I know we'll meet again some sunny